So, guys, I got some like crazy life-changing news. Like, I can't wait to share this with you. Honestly, I don't know if my life's ever gonna be the same after this. So let me just show you what's going on here. Um, you see that? Yeah, I just smoked Lonely Victor. I smoked them. Um, I bet that impresses you so much, right? Like you're just like blown away with my accomplishment. Yeah, it's a sad thing. If I took all the time from the time I was a child all the way up, all the time that I spent on video games, and I took that time and I put it into like personal development, investments in myself, businesses, different things like that. I beating Lona Victor like that on that game. Um, I I don't get to go to Hawaii, right? My family doesn't get a step ahead because of that. I'm still in the grind. I'm still the reality of life is still there. It did not go away. I can't drown it out with that. Just like you can't drown it out with a bottle. You don't drown it out with that kind of stuff. That's just the reality of it. And so often in my lifetime, I've spent too much time doing that. I remember this. There's this photo of myself. When I look at it, it's nauseating. It's absolutely freaking nauseating. Um, it's me when I was 20 years old, and I'm sitting there on top of the coffee table, playing Dreamcast, and you see me with this big old smile, and I have no idea what game I'm playing or anything like that. You just see me kind of like face on, right, and behind me is my wife with my baby in her belly, my first baby, and we're about 20 years old, and I'm just sitting there. And now when I look at that photo, it angers myself to see myself doing that then. And I'm not saying that there's no place for video games, but it's like it's something symbolic for me. It's something symbolic. Um, the thought that that woman was sitting there on the couch, she's smiling, she's happy right then. I don't know why. Like, what was I doing for her right then that would make her happy? I don't even know. Um, but she was smiling, and that baby's in her belly, and you can talk to your baby when they're in the belly, and you can interact with them, and I could have spent that time with my wife. I could have been massaging her feet. I could have gone and got her like some tea. I could have maybe throwing a load of laundry in the washing machine for her, something like that, but I'm sitting there playing video games. And again, I don't know what that exact moment was like. I just know it's like a microcosm of a bigger problem. And recently, I've been doing a lot of walking lately, a lot of walking, and I walked with my son to his favorite restaurant, Taco Bell, um, and we're sitting there eating, and just like he wanted to like get the food and then go home, right? Because I was like, hey, if we're going to Taco Bell, we're walking, and then and we're gonna sit there and we're gonna eat and we're gonna hang out, we're gonna talk, and I don't know how it came up, but I started to kind of vent a little bit because I'd been kind of feeling like frustrated with the condition of our home. We got my younger son, got my so I have four kids. My second child, my youngest child, still living with us, and understandably, I'm not knocking anybody, at all. But they're there, and then it's my wife and I, and it's like, why is this house a mess, right? And I'm tired of living in any kind of clutter, any kind of mess. Like, there's no reason for it. Everyone's old enough and capable enough, and I was venting that kind of stuff, and I was kind of like ripping into them a little bit, nothing too crazy or anything, but just, I mean, we're in Taco Bell, but just kind of letting them know, like, I'm tired of some of this stuff. I can't do it anymore. I'm sick of this. I'm sick of that, right? And he said something to me that was that hit hard. It hit really, really, really hard, and he was 100% right. And it was a hard pill to swallow. And I actually found myself in that moment wanting to argue back, push back on it because I didn't want to hear it. But if I'm really honest, in my subconscious, I kind of knew really that was what was going on anyway. I just couldn't believe my freaking 13-year-old could spot it the way he did. He spotted it instantly. And it's amazing. It's just a tribute to A, how smart kids are, B, how the environment they live in affects them so much. If you live in an anxious, and I'm going to get to what he said in a second, don't get me wrong, but if you live in a anxious home or a stressed home or any of these things, the kids pick up on it. My gosh, do they pick up on it. And if you live in a loving home and a relaxed home, great. That's what kids need. And so anyway, what did he say? He said, Dad, it just seems to me like whenever you're not happy with yourself, you take it out on us. Um, and I was like, damn, he's so freaking right. And it's weird the timing of that because I've been reading some really powerful books that kind of hit on these themes. Gabor Mate's got a book called, I think it's called Scattered Minds. It's about ADD. Reading a book called How to Raise a Healthy Gamer. And because my son's kind of got a bit of a screen addiction. He's like slightly on the spectrum, and some things there with him that I didn't really struggle so much with my other kids, but with him I do, and it's the same son. And then this book called Loving What Is by Byron Katie, and man, just some challenging stuff, and it's just a lot of things that I'm working out in my life. But holy crap, how does my 13-year-old son spot that so quick? Uh, Mind-blowing stuff. And so, the thing about video games is that, getting back to the beginning, is that for so long, it was an escape for me. It was an escape. And I'm starting to kind of realize like there's a pretty good chance that I've got ADD, and just real, I think there's a real struggle there. And video games are just a natural thing that you want to flock to. Get that dopamine, get the distraction, get the feeling of an accomplishment without real world stress, without real world challenge. But you get a sense of a challenge, a sense of accomplishment, and so you keep hammering that home. And what's funny about this game that I showed you, Clash Royale, is it's one of those ones that it's like extra unhealthy because the game just a lot of times just like angers me a lot when I played it, and puts me in a really bad mood. So there's this weird loop where um, I I start down a path and I'm working toward a goal and I'm wanting this thing, but then the dip happens. There's these challenges. It starts to get hard and it starts to get real, and I start to get uncomfortable. So then more and more and more and more, I want to lean on these escapes, these things that pull me out of it and give me like a release from it, make me forget all of that. And then that's how I unravel myself. And as a husband, as a father, it's inexcusable. It truly is. And so I'm learning to give myself grace. I'm learning to take care of myself better, physically, emotionally, spiritually, give myself time and think about myself. Think about Daniel Moss. Like, what does Daniel Moss need? What do I actually need? And so I've been doing a lot of walking, a lot of praying, a lot of contemplating, a lot of like thinking, like creative thinking and different things, like spending time with my family individually and different things like that. And it's been really wonderful. But man, I'll tell you, when my son called me out like that, that was such a gut punch, because it's like it just makes you wonder what kind of damage you're doing. And I link a lot of it to video games, because what he was talking about there was, at that moment when that happened, this was like a week ago, when that happened, I had been in this weird video game spiral where I was messing up my YouTube 30-day challenge, and I was feeling that, and I was like trying to escape, and I was just feeling depressed about it all. And the video game thing actually was making me more depressed about it. And so now I'm looking at like scapegoats, like, oh, it's my son, they're not keeping the house clean. That's why I can't concentrate because it's not, and things like that. Crazy. Like when I hear myself say it, it's crazy, but in the moment, some of that stuff makes sense. And, for me, video games are a problem. Video games don't get you anywhere in life. You're not building anything real. I wish a young Daniel would know that. I wish a young Daniel could, like, if I could say anything to you, if you're, a young man or a young woman, um, man, just stop. Just stop. Stop. Like, let's bankrupt these freaking video game companies, honestly. Um, like, we don't need that stuff in our life. And I think there can be a place for it, but like if you're someone that really struggles with it and you find yourself being held back in life, or you find it to be this unhealthy escape from reality, if that's what it is, oh man, like get rid of them, get it out of your life, and start building real things. In that book, How to Raise a Healthy Gamer, it's one of the things that he talks about. This is a psychologist who struggled mightily with video, like worse than I've ever struggled, honestly. And so he kind of tells a story about that, but then he just talks about what's the psychology of this, like what's going on there. And he's saying that kids who use video games as an escape, they tend to be immature adults, because instead of learning how to emotionally deal with the problems that they have in life and learning how to regulate their emotions and process things and deal with them, they escape. And so they're stuck back in time as that 10-year-old or whatever who needed to learn properly how to deal with emotions with counseling and, family and, whatever. They didn't do that. They escaped. And so, that in all truthfulness, what my son was pointing out to me was, Dad, you're immature. You're a baby. Stop being a baby. Be a man. Grow up. Dad, I need you to grow up. Dad, I need you to be the father I need you to be, because I need you to show me how to be a man. And I can't sit there and like blame crap on my kids and stuff like that. I got to be a man, and I got to model things, and I got to step up in all of those kinds of ways. And I got to be able to process things, like when I'm feeling overwhelmed and down or whatever, I got to learn how to process that better instead of turning to video games, escaping, hating my life more, and then blaming everybody else. Well, there you go. That's where I'm at. And I know that. That's the beautiful thing, is that I know that now. And that's the work. Doing the work. I hope you're doing the work. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you're up to. Let me know how you struggle in this regard. What are video games to you? If you at all would say that video games are an escape. I used to say that proudly. I used to say that, and I would feel good about that. I thought that was the greatest justification for a video game. I've come to find out that if you at all say, oh, video games are an escape, then you might have a video game problem. Actually, you might have a problem. There's a pretty good chance you have a problem with it. You shouldn't be escaping. You shouldn't. You can use video games as a way to connect with people, and that's cool. And I can sit down with my son side by side, play a game together, laugh, and elbow each other, and wrestle and do all that stuff because right. But if I'm escaping, that's a problem. Look yourself in the mirror and ask yourself that question: are you escaping? Anyway, hope that makes sense. This is 46 years of dealing with this bull crap. You don't need that. You don't need that. Take care.